Hello guys, this is my first time doing this, so probably it won't be good. Don't get on me for that, alright? I just want to express my opinion on what I think is wrong with Battlefield as a franchise as a whole. And this creates problem for every single of their game. And I think that the problem is that they're huge games. Like, think about it. Being a huge game means having a huge fan base. And having a huge fan base means having people with different ideas about the game, about the actual game or future games. They want their own opinion to be implemented in future games, and that leads to the devs not knowing what to do, like whom to please. If they do something to please someone, that will piss off the other part, and vice versa. So in this specter, I think there are two main problems or two main splits in the community, which is the community who wants a more tactical based shooter and a community who wants a more casual approach, like Battlefield has always had. And this is not something new. You might think that this is something on Battlefield 5. It's not the case. Remember back on Battlefield 2? Battlefield 2, by the way, it used to be a more tactical, but a more tactical shooter, but more tactical Battlefield than the next next games on the franchise. And and there still were people who weren't pleased with that. They want an even more tactical shooter. So they created, I don't remember the name, I think it's Project Reality, I'm not sure. And after that, they made Squad. So yeah, Squad is made by people of the Battlefield fan base who wanted a more tactical Battlefield. And so just to point out that this is an old problem. And yeah, so it will keep being a problem even in the future Battlefield, and not only Battlefield 6 or Battlefield 2021. In all the others, it will be like this. It will be people who want more tactical and more casual. So how can DICE fix that? Well, in my point of view, that's very easy. You have a normal Battlefield that it always has been, like visuality, like a more friendly toward new players and casual players, and this includes friendly visibility or friendly gunplay, and also the spotting system, which is manually and can be done by everyone, every single soldier. This is a more friendly toward new people. And I got some ideas on that. Like, for example, even the spotting, the manual spotting, can be changed, can be tweaked a bit. Like, for example, there are some other games that do it that you don't actually spot the player, or when you spot the player, it doesn't get a red bright cycle over his head. You can just spot the place. So a circle or something can be spawned on the place when you spot it, on the actual place, on the ground, for example, on the bushes or something, but not the actual player. And if you want to have both, you can make it so that the red bright cycle over their head can happen only because it's rumored that the Battlefield 5 will be a modern cycle. It can happen only if the commander puts a drone in a certain place, a certain area, a ghost drone. They cannot. You can implement it in a certain way that this can happen. And about gunplay also, we know that they can't make it fully realistic because you need hit points and you need to balance it so guns cannot have the actual stats of the real guns in real life. And customization will also be a problem with the visibility. So what do you do? Again, you have a normal mode when these are normal, like in every other Battlefield before, and have a hardcore mode when these are all changed. For example, gunplay is more hard. There is more recoil, there is more hit points, like you can die from one or two bullets or something like that. Visibility also is switched down. Now you cannot see soldiers or something, and also spotting. It's all removed at all, or you can remove everything, like visually. You can remove like the bullet counts or your health bar and everything, or also don't forget that DICE allows for custom service that it has always allowed, even in Battlefield 5. They allowed them late, but they did allow them, so they can make it so that certain servers, like fan servers, can make their own Twitch and hardcore levels. For example, some of them wanna let bullet counts, let them let bullet counts. They can servers can twitch their own way of suppression or recoil or hit points or whatever. Just let them do it in their own way, like in a mod kind of thing, in a hardcore level. And I think this would please people. I don't know. I know DICE against modding and everything, but yeah, this is the hardcore level. So I think they can implement it. I think they can think of something to implement it in the right good way to please everyone, like casual player in a normal mode and tactical player in a hardcore mode. So that's the first problem. Now the second problem, and oh, by the way, this is not scripted and this is not edited, all right? I'm just recording myself on my workplace because I'm actually working right now, and I don't even have a gameplay as of now. I plan to put something like a Battlefield 4, 1 or 5 gameplay, which by the way would be uncut. That too, it will be a huge gameplay. I will suck on it probably, but yeah. So, and the other problem that is obvious to every single Battlefield player, I think it's the fact that the community is split in also two other groups, which is political correctness and not political correctness player. I know this is a controversial topic, but it's true. We all know it. And this put devs in a really bad place. I mean, think about it. There are people like, this is not a new problem for the world, and not for the gaming industry, because it's bigger than the gaming industry, and it always has been there. Right? Now, maybe now it's more visible because of the recent stuff that has happened in the world, but it's always been there, not only the gaming, it everywhere else. And this put DICE in a bad position. Why? Because there is, any other game with huge fan base and community, there are people who don't think always political correctness is the right thing to go to. And they will be there. And I will talk against, if you try to implement political correctness, they will talk against it, and you will piss them off, like happened in Battlefield 5. I will talk a bit later about that. And if you don't put political correctness and you try to not piss them off, you will piss off the community outside of gaming. Like you might get into the news, because you know how the news is, and blaming everything on gaming and everything. So they would say, oh, DICE and Battlefield allows this to happen, It's a racist, toxic community, whatever. So yeah, devs are in a really bad position when it comes to that. Yeah, and we saw that in Battlefield 5. They tried to be inclusive, and it blew back to them. Why? Because it was the wrong setting. It was World War II, and yeah, I think I get also the other part, the people who were against women, because the main topic was woman there. I get it. It wasn't, the setting was a bit wrong to do it. But since Battlefield 6 or 2020 is rumored to be in a modern setting, then this leaves you place to actually act upon it and be more inclusive. You want to put women in there, you can, and no one will say nothing. Why? Because women nowadays are a reality in most of the factions or of the armies of the world. So the people who are against political correctness cannot say something against that. So it all comes down to customization now, and I think you can do something which would please both sides, and I mean it. Like, let's talk about customization then. If you do put armies like any other battlefield in the past, then there is no problem in that. Certain armies will have, like Battlefield 5, certain armies will have women and will have other ethnicities other than white, like they actually have. English, American, whatever, they do have other ethnicities. I think in the actual army, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think most of the people in the actual army are not white. In the actual American army are not white. Don't quote me on that. I don't. Maybe they are. The point is that you can put women, you can put black people, you can put people with Asian descent. Sorry for my accent. And also Latinos and you can put whatever. Now, if you put like Russian, everyone expects Russian to be white, right? Well, Russia is a federation, so they don't have only white ethnicities there. They have others. They have Asian, like Mongolic people, especially in Siberia, or they have Turkish and brownish people. Like they don't have actual black people, but they have brownish people, and you can, if you want to, you can put those two in there. But I have like a bigger idea. Like think about it. Every Battlefield game has tried to put actual armies, but not factions. Now, if you do it with factions, there are more place for customization. For example, you can put NATO and something against NATO, which might be whatever fictional thing you might think of, because Warsaw Pact is not there anymore. Now there is BRIC, but yeah, you can try to put BRIC or whatever you want. It's not the problem. The thing is that it lets you customize more. Like think about it. A NATO faction, like a whole. Every game, every map out there is played by NATO faction. Now, there are no American soldiers. There are soldiers from all over the NATOs. And this leads you more because, of course, you will have people to pay maybe real money for this customable stuff. I don't know, my English sucks sometimes, so bear with me. Okay, so yeah. I mean, American English. They can all have their own uniforms or something like that, and people can buy those. Or not only them, because they're most famous on the NATO, but NATO has also other countries like I don't know Montenegro, Finland, less country, but they have huge play fan base on the game, so they can be and they can put their own self in that, But also not only actual regular armies, you can put in this faction. You can also put resistant fighters, and people can show their self or their character in this character. And I don't know, as I said before, you can put woman because they're part of the resistance. You don't know how they're dressed. You can put woman with, I don't know, like a shirt with rainbow of LGBTQ. Yeah, you don't know that. Like nobody can say nothing against it because you will try to pass them as part of resistance, and they may happen in real life. So there is no problem there whatsoever. Now this is the NATO part, and now let's talk about the anti-NATO part, the place the faction who will fight NATO. Now you will say that they're the bad guys, so they have to be all white. No, because as in past and as it has happened in a real war, there probably will be Russians and a coalition of Russian and Chinese. But not only these two, because as I said, both Russian and Chinese have different ethnicities in them. You can try to implement this, but also add other ethnicities, because if this war would happen, it probably would have not only these countries. It will be a world war, and it will be also in Africa, for example. Let's take Africa. And in Africa, there will be countries aligned with NATO and countries not aligned with NATO against. So this kind of soldiers could be implemented, like actual black soldiers, implemented into the army of the anti-NATO faction. So now what you have all the Russian or the minorities of the Russian Federation, plus this other worldwide people that you try to pass as part, try to pass, they could actually be part of a future war aligned with these countries. They can be part of resistance, or they can be women too, whatever. You can, and also black people, because as I said, people tend to think that only white people can be the enemy of America, but that might not be true. As I said, some black African nation can be aligned with Russia, so they can have their own stuff, like their own uniform, their own style of helmet and everything, or they can also have the Russian or the Chinese uniforms, because Russia or Chinese could give them military aid. So they will be black, they might have the Russian helmet or uniform whatsoever, but they will be twitches, like they won't have the actual Russian flag, they will have some other flag, or better yet, they can have emblems back home. We know that emblems, like player made emblems, there was a huge part of it, and they can be put on. I know that what the problem is. I know that, like, we all remember Battlefield 4 and all these players with swastikas on. We all do, like old school. Maybe new players don't, but we who have played Battlefield 4, we remember. So I get the point in there. Like, you don't want swastikas in your game because, as I said, you will get into the news. So this might be player customizable or player made emblems, or just your own emblems but representing something, like flags. Like, remember back on Hardline, every flag was put there by the devs themselves, or something to represent them. I don't know, like I said before, like rainbow or whatever. Like, you can put whatever emblem you want which would made this represent and stand out. So that's all. That's all about that. And since we are talking about customer, these things that I'm about to talk now got nothing to do with the two problems that I'm speaking. Just about adding something more to customization, which is ribbons and medals. Like, we all loved them in the past. I know the Battlefield 4. I was about to say they didn't. In the beginning, they had ribbons and medals in Battlefield 4, but later they had medals, but ribbons they didn't have it anyway. Like, in the traditional way of speaking of ribbons and medals. So they can be back in this new Battlefield, and I think, they can be put in display on your uniform. Think about it. It would be cool to have a place, like, I don't know, chest or arms or head, balaclava, whatever, a predefined place when you could put these ribbons or like, of course, players can have hundreds of them. They don't have to put it all, because you end up being like a Soviet general with all these ribbons. So I don't know, you can choose out of all the medals, you can choose two, and like two or three or five ribbons, and put it in some place on your uniform. That would be really cool. And something else, which is also what I want about Battlefield, but it's not related to the problems. I think it would just be cool. It's a day-night cycle. And this can be implemented into three ways. You can have an actual in-game day-night cycle. You can randomly spawn in a map in a random time of the day or night, and it can be random, or it can be an actual day-night cycle. For example, you play in a server located in Berlin, and you get in the server, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the evening, and the actual time of the in-game map will be 5 o'clock in the evening. And also, this might be a realistic one. Like, for example, the game lasts 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then the actual night will change from 20, like 5 o'clock in the game, and five and a half when it ends. Or it can be like this: you actually start by the time, and then it has a different time. For example, when you start in real life, you start at 5 o'clock. When you end, it's 5:30. And in game, when you start, it's 5 o'clock, but when you end up, it's, I don't know, 9, 12, depends on how devs make it. Or it can be all predefined. Like, a good example is you remember Parcel Storm? Yeah, when the game was about to finish, stuff would happen like storms, get darker, start raining, things like that. So they can do this. They can do this in an upcoming game too. For example, you start at whatever the devs think most likely, depending on the map. For example, there will be fictional battles, in this fictional war. So there might be a battle. I don't know. I'm just assuming a battle that is an infiltration operation. So you need it to be dark. So the battle starts, for example, at in the morning, and when it's about to end, this might be 5 minutes, 10, 20 minutes, doesn't matter what it is in real life. Inside the game, when it's about to end, it gets from morning to midday or something like that. Pretty fine. That would be cool too. And something else is putting lots of different, not location maps, but different type of maps. I don't know if you get me. For example, you can put a close quarter map. Like usually they get out with 6 to 8 maps a game like this, and then they add maps later, either with DLC or live server, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not a problem. In these 6 or 8 maps, you can put a map which is close quarter. You can put a map which is a huge open one, you know, or you can put a one with lots of covers, and different type of maps. The location can be whatever you want, doesn't matter, but different type of maps, and you let players choose which one they like the most, and then based on that, you actually tweak your future maps. For example, if out of these 6 maps, the one who's played the most, I don't know, is the close quarter ones, then you add 2 more and then something else, because it depends. It all depends on the feedback that the people will give you on this, but that's what I think. And yeah, that was all my opinions on the future, on past and future, because I start with the problems. This is just my opinion, by the way. You don't have to. Oh, but you don't have to like the video whatsoever. You don't have to like or share. I'm not doing this for likes or share. I'm just doing this as a contribution to the fan base, because I'm a huge Battlefield fan. So I'm just putting it there for people like me. So no pressure. Don't feel obligated to like it. Don't feel to share or comment. If you don't like it, just dislike it. No problem for me at all. I'm not doing this for monetization. But yeah, that's my opinion, and I'm really curious. I am really curious to think what you think about the things that I said. So if you want, leave a comment down there and tell me everything about it, or make your own video. I like this kind of video. I actually enjoy them, where different players make their own version of what is wrong with Battlefield and how it could be better in the future. So yeah, that's all what I did this, and I don't know. Maybe you liked it, maybe disliked it. Just tell me. I'm really curious about that. That's the most interesting part about me. And that's all. Bye.